Hey, sixth grade. Okay, so on Friday we read section 1 of chapter 15 of our Hinduism chapter. And over the weekend you had to read section 2 and 3 of chapter 15, and you should have completed the reading notes. So that was due today. So you guys should be well versed and have some background knowledge about the sections that we're going to go over today. So what I want you to do is, let's take you back to your topics page. Doesn't matter what class you are on because they're all the same. You're clicking on Ancient India, and we're clicking on the PowerPoint for chapter 15. And this is what it should look like for everybody. Now, what I want you to remember is if you need to pause this video and go back, then please do so. That's why I want you to work on these videos and do the work individually for the next few days, because I want you to take your time and do it at your own pace. So let's talk a little bit about the PowerPoint in sections 1, 2, and 3. So again, we're learning about Hindu beliefs in this chapter. This chapter is definitely going to be very different from any of the other religions that you guys are familiar with. So what we know about Hinduism is that it's India's first major religion, and it affects Indians' lives in many, many different ways. So it affects how they worship. Hinduism affects what jobs that they have. It affects what they eat. They're inspired by lots of great art and literature. And Hinduism also determines the status of people in Indian society. We're going to learn all about that in this chapter. So how did Hinduism begin? Well, no single person founded Hinduism. Remember, when we learned about Judaism, we knew that Abraham was the father of the religion, but we can't really bring it back to one person. But we do know that it began before recorded history. So before anything was written down, Hinduism began. Around 2000 BCE, the people called the Aryans migrated to northern India. And we believe that it definitely came from some aspect of their lives. And we also believe that Hinduism existed even in Mohenjo-daro around that time. So there are these things called the Vedas. And the earliest Hindu religion is called Vedism. And Vedas are a collection of sacred texts, and this is a picture right here. So it's just a collection of writings, and they're written in the language of Sanskrit, is what it's called. And Sanskrit is still around today, but it's an ancient language coming from India. The word Veda actually means knowledge. So, like I said, Sanskrit's an ancient language of India. Here are some pictures of words written in Sanskrit. Some of you might have seen Sanskrit written before, but the Vedas, again, were composed in this ancient language, and a lot of people can still read Sanskrit today. So, after Vedism comes Brahmanism. And Brahmanism grows out of older Vedic religious beliefs, and it really helped shape the Hinduism that we know today. It's an ancient Indian religion in which the Brahmins, and our Brahmins are our priests and the religious scholars, they're the dominant class. So that means that they are the class that is in charge. The Brahmins became important because they're the ones who perform all the rituals, and they were the only ones who were able to interpret the Vedas correctly. So in the beginning we have Vedism here, the early Vedic religion of Vedism. Then out of Vedism comes Brahmanism, okay? And then out of Brahmanism comes Hinduism. All right, section 3 talks about the caste system, and this can be very confusing. Definitely, I get it. So if you feel like you need to reread section 3 over again, please go ahead and do so, or come back and take a look at this PowerPoint. All right? So Hinduism now has become a way of life in India. We had our Vedism, we had our Brahmanism, and now we have Hinduism. Brahmanism taught that a well-organized society is divided into social classes. So that's where Hinduism gets it from. Europeans, who later come to India, call this the caste system. And what a caste is, C-A-S-T-E, not like the cast you wear on your arm, but a different spelling. A caste system is a class or a group in Hindu society, okay? So we're familiar with the social structures. This is similar, but it's definitely more intense, this caste system is. And what this chapter does for you is it breaks it down into 4 main social classes. These words are definitely very difficult, but you guys need to know them. So whether you make flashcards or separate notes, you need to do that because you need to understand a lot of these words. The words are hard. So there's 4 classes. You have the Brahmins, which are at the top, and those are your priests and your religious scholars. Then you have the Kshatriyas. Those are the ruler and the warrior class. Then, underneath them is the Vaishyas. Those are your herders and your merchants. And then, at the bottom are the Shudras. Those are the servants, farmers, and laborers. Now, according to the Vedas, remember those early writings, each class, which is also called a Varna, had its own duties. So, every class is responsible for certain things. The Brahmins, their main duty in life is to study and to teach the Vedas, those ancient writings. The warriors had a duty to become skilled with their weapons. Those are just some examples. So in the text, it goes into other examples what the herders and the merchants are supposed to do, servants, farmers, and laborers, etc. And what you'll find with the rest of the chapter is that it definitely goes into more explicit detail with them. The caste system meant that some people were favored more than others. So obviously the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas are going to be favored more than the Vaishyas and the Shudras. You are born into a caste system and you cannot change this caste system. You only marry within your caste system. So if you are a Shudra, you only marry Shudra. If you are a Brahmin, you only marry Brahmin, etc., etc. There's no moving up or down. So our Brahmins, our priests and our religious scholars, their duty is to study and teach the Vedas, like I just mentioned, and they're at the top place in the caste system. The Kshatriyas, they're our rulers and our warriors. Their duty is to become skilled with the weapons. The Vaishyas, they're your herders and they're your merchants. The Shudras are the servants, and they're held in the lowest place in the caste system. Then there's a 5th caste group that isn't really mentioned a lot, but it's still important to know. And these are our Untouchables. Over the centuries, this class has developed. These are people whose jobs are considered low. So these are our people, they're considered dirty. So they handle garbage, maybe they have touched dead animals. They live in their own villages or in their neighborhoods. They're outcasts. They're completely separate from the rest of the population in India. They cannot enter temples or attend most schools. Other Hindus actually avoid touching them. That's why they're called the Untouchables. And in many cases, they are separate from the lowest class that remains today. So Untouchables, unfortunately, there are a lot of them. So they might have some sort of disease, they might be sick, they live on the streets, they live in very dire conditions, but they are sort of rejected from the rest of the Hindus. Here's a picture of someone actually helping an untouchable, which is not as common as we would hope. Alright, so I'll talk about Brahman and the deities and Dharma and Karma in a later video. But again, use these videos as resources, guys, to help you if you need to go back and check over the information.